So, Gabe, we all know the top 5 players who seem to get drafted in the early rounds of the draft tend to be Mane, Salah, Bruno, KDB, and I think Sterling's just sneaks in there, although I'm not so sure he's up with that calibre. But who are the 5 players, or it doesn't have to be 5, who are the players that you're looking out for this season, like who you think they might be up to, they might up to be scratched, the newcomers?
Well, I think everyone's eyes are on Chelsea, really, aren't they?
Yeah.
You've got Timo Werner signed up front last season. Abraham did a really good job, and then Giroud did a really good job after lockdown. But there's a role to be won there, isn't there? With his record, you can kind of see that going well. Then you've got Ziyech as well, another new boy, injured for the first week, but I think he could come good. And then you've got Havertz as well. So 3 players who I think could really make an impact on the Premiership.
Jonas, I agree, and I think out of all the newcomers that have come in, I think they're the only 3 that are taking my eye, and in particular Werner, because Giroud and what's his face? Who am I thinking? Tammy, yeah, them 2. Lampard wasn't happy with either of them, so I think Werner is going to be a starter. I think there might be a bit of rotation between Havertz and Ziyech until they get their feet under the table. But I think those are the 3 notable ones. I think there's a lot of ones that people are going to be going for, but maybe are not going to be setting the Premier League alight, especially the first season in.
It's always a risk. I always see it as a risk picking up a player who hasn't got any history in the league, because it is so different to some of the European leagues. You just wonder how they'll settle in. I think the other one that's maybe worth a mention is Donny van de Beek. I think it'll be interesting how he settles in it with Pogba and Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, in past seasons, they've both been points machines. Is he going to be the fella who sits back and lets them play, or is he going to be able to get forward and will play more of a 3 that rotate and kind of all fill all the roles depending on the instance of going forward? So I'm keen to see how that one plays out. But he wasn't high up on my list of picks because I think he might have more of a holding role.
Deeper role. I agree. You don't know how he's going to play, because if he's going to play all 3, you'd expect him to play deeper. Like when McTominay or Matic are going to play, or whether he's going to play 2 holding. But you can't expect him to be too high up if he is playing Pogba and Bruno. So it was a bit of a risky one. What about players to
watch?
Yeah.
My gripe is with, I think I mentioned it already, but Wilf Zaha, that's a personal one. Had him all of last season, and I just hated watching him. So I've avoided him. I avoided Aubameyang in the draft because he hadn't signed his contract yet.
Yeah.
It's rumoured to be closer, but we've had a few instances in the league where a key player leaving has ruined people's seasons.
Yeah.
STP United had Payet leave, they had Coutinho leave, and it just derailed everything.
Yeah.
And I just didn't fancy taking that risk.
Did he have Ericsson as well? Didn't he leave in January?
Pretty sure. Season as well, yeah. A second draft pick, I think, from memory.
Yeah. I've got a few to avoid, who, they might come to bite me back in the anus, but I think Rodrigo for Leeds, who I think a lot of people have drafted early doors, his returns, I know he's a Spanish international and he's got a decent record, half-decent record for Spain, but, for Valencia, he hasn't, I think he's got double figures in only 1 of his last 6 seasons, and we're talking the Spanish league here. I don't think that's going to be pulling up any trees in the Premier League. And
I think there might be a reason why he's getting quite a lot of hype, and I think it's where official Premier League fantasy crosses over with like a draft fantasy. In official fantasy, he's a forward and he's 6 million. So I think to a lot of people, having a cheap forward who'll get a few goals is quite appealing. But that doesn't stack up in Toga. You can't afford to carry players that aren't going to score very well.
Exactly. I think another one for me, and again, this might come back to bite me in the testes, but I'm not so sure about James Rodriguez for Everton, I think it could literally go either way, because I don't think he's going to be on set pieces. I think he's going to be quite high on dispossessions like Zaha. So unless he hits the ground running with assists or goals, I think he might be an expensive luxury to have in your team, like you found out with Zaha for last season.
I would agree with that. What's your thoughts on Lacazette?
Lacazette, I think he's fallen from grace, hasn't he? I don't know if Arteta's got faith in him. I don't think he's going to be starting him because he seems to be going with the younger lads around Aubameyang, doesn't he? And even then, you would have thought
he's relatively high in previous years. He's done quite well, being high up in the draft order, but he really has fallen from grace. He was one to avoid for me.
Yeah, my one to avoid, my personal one, is similar to yours, Zaha, was Diego Jota. Obviously, I had him 2 seasons ago and he was a machine. Last season, he was kind of disappointing. But the fact that he's now moved positions from forward to midfield, opposite midfield to forward, I think he's expendable. I don't think he's going to be, he very rarely plays the 90 minutes. And I feel like he's a one to avoid. He'd be lower down in the draft order.
Have you looked at Fantrax recently? Could you take a stab at his average draft position in all the Fantrax leagues in all the world? It gives you the stat of average draft pick.
Right.
Where would you think he would sit?
I honestly think for me, he's pick 10, 11 onwards. He's definitely double figures. Like last season, he was my second pick. This season, I'm not drafting him at all, but I think he's definitely double figures. He has to be 10 plus in the draft.
Oh, yeah. 83rd on average in the draft, sitting alongside Nathan Ake, Joseph Gomez, Diogo Jota, Saka and Declan Rice. So I think that shows the fall from grace that he's had.
Definitely. I think Saka might be a decent shout because is he a midfielder this year?
He's a good shout.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a lot of minutes this year, unfortunately, because I had Pepe last year and he was kept rotating him in with him. So I don't know where he's going to be sitting this year. Another one for me is Thiago Silva. People are making a lot of noise out Thiago Silva for Chelsea, but to me, Lampard, he hasn't really sorted his defence out. He's got Ben Chilwell in, he's putting Thiago Silva in, but I still think unless he's got something up his wizard sleeve and he changes his keeper, I think Chelsea are still going to ship goals this season.
I don't disagree with you there. I think that's a good observation.
What about hidden gems? Any hidden gems up your sleeve?
Well, there are a couple that I haven't drafted that I've got little stars against hidden for further down the line as we go. So I'll maybe keep them to myself, and see how they play out over the next weeks, because they're players who are out with injury or players who maybe we haven't seen for a little while but could have a bit of a resurgence in the coming season.
I think there's a lot of players who are, me, I love a forward that sneaks into midfield, and the likes of Pedense, who was getting a lot of game time at the back end of last season for Jota. Dwight McNeil's moved into midfield. Perez, I think, moved into midfield. So I think there's some value out there in some of these players who, were steady players, but now they're winning into midfield. You're getting an extra forward in your team for free.
Yeah, I think those type of players are the ones to try and watch out for. And the same with fullbacks. The ones that get forward seem to be the ones that score the points. So it's keeping an eye on those players who play in those positions to see if you can pick one up that gets a few points. Yeah. I think Kyle Walker-Peters has moved to Southampton. Could be one of those. He could get forward quite a lot. Bertrand had some success doing that a few seasons ago, less so last season. But I think that's probably one to watch rather than a hidden gem as such.
What about Doherty? I drafted Doherty quite early and I instantly regretted it because, one, I don't like to draft defenders too soon. But two, I don't think Mourinho will play him in as an advanced role as Wolves did. And I think they might even play 4 at the back. So he's not going to get that freedom like he has down that flank.
I was quite shy on defenders this draft. My finger hovered over Doherty at one point, and it hovered over Chilwell at another point, and someone else, and I just let them go. I just wasn't feeling it. I don't think I was in the fullback, attacking fullback high up in the draft pick zone that day. I think I prioritised my strikers and my midfield, and I've ended up with. Now this one may be a hidden gem. Actually, this is one that I'm relatively feeling quite buoyant about. Arsenal's William Saliba.
Ah, right. Well, you think he's going to get game time?
Yeah, he's starting Arteta said he's starting tomorrow, so I think
Right.
that has been a leaky point for quite a while, and I think he might help shore that up a little bit.
That might be a little hidden gem. That might be a one indeed. I think I overlooked him. I think I drafted Gabriel, but I think he'll start in the long run, whether he's going to start early doors or not. But I did see that City, but I didn't realise he was going to be getting thrown straight in the mixer. Like,
I think he spent last season out on loan, although he was an Arsenal player. So I think they're bringing him in to throw him in the deep end now.
you know, that'll be interesting. So your fan tracks changes this season. There was a lot of mass debate over the changes that fan tracks were making in their scoring system. Do we carry it on what we used to, or do we change over with the times? What's your thoughts on people who are, going into maybe the second or third seasons, on what they do in their league setup?
I think I was quite behind the idea in our league of updating the player positions. I think that was one that was fiercely debated for a little while.
Yeah.
I know you were on the other side of that coin. But my view was, if they've spent a lot of time in that position the previous season, it's as Opta judge it, and I think that's probably where your gripe is. Then I think it's probably best just to keep it updated in line with the game rather than move into our own hybrid or keep things the same, which I think gets outdated, or move into our own hybrid sort of position ranking system.
I think overall it is fair, because if it is run by Opta or Fantrax, it is an independent body who's deciding these. It's not we've got, control over where they go. And my only gripe was sometimes how Opta delegate these positions. So like they've moved Maximus from Newcastle from a forward to a midfielder, purely based on the fact that Newcastle don't have the ball quite often. So the whole team sit a lot deeper, but they sit a lot deeper as a formation. So he still is our forward outlet for Newcastle, but he's not a midfielder. And in the same hand, when for Mahrez, he went from a midfielder to a forward, but that was purely based on the heat map, the zones where they're saying where he's playing. And obviously most City players are going to be in the final third form more. But for me, they're very similar position players. So the fact that they've both switched in the opposite directions, but I guess that's part of the game, isn't it? The tactical, where you're seeing players play and where you're going to pick them up for your own teams.
Yeah, I think it adds a different dimension when some of the players get changed around a little bit, and you can, you've got to update your assumptions, haven't you? Like Zaha, I know in the Galacticos FC were quite keen on having Zaha, and P. De Bruyne were quite glad to have Perez, because they're forwards that have been downgraded that are still relatively forward playing. They're quite a bonus to have in your team.
Yeah, definitely. Going on to the opening weekend, and are there any individual players that you think might shine this week? Because obviously we've got the City and United games both off, so there's a lot of big stars that are not going to be playing this weekend. You think it's going to be an opportunity for anyone to shine this weekend? We're back. Good, we're back. Yeah, so do you think, is there anyone this weekend who you think is going to be a standout performer?
Through maybe this is a topic for a future podcast, but it's my honour to do the first to double our money. So I did quite a lot looking at the fixtures. Now I think there's a few banana skins out there. Right. Liverpool playing Leeds is a potential banana skin for them. Fulham playing Arsenal. Arsenal could triple there. I'm a little bit cagey about who's likely to shine. Again, I come back to the Chelsea boys. I think if they've gelled in the squad, there's quite a lot of ifs in there. But I think if some of the new boys play, that could be the game to watch.
Yeah. I've tried to think. I'm going to be quite open with my Spurs players. I think they've got a good run of fixtures. And I know they've got Everton, I think, at home first game. And I think Spurs haven't disrupted their squad too much, whereas Everton have made loads of changes. And I think that can only benefit Spurs in the short term. So I think those likes who have got Kane, who have got Son, and they're gonna be scoring well. Is that you? Yeah, you've got Son.
I've got Son.
It's literally a toss off to who else he plays. I drafted Lucas Moura, even though he messed me up last season. Oh, your bait looks nice. What you having?
Got some salmon with potatoes and broccoli.
Ooh, tasty, nice. Yes, I
don't know why you picked up Moura again. He's seen you so badly for the last year.
Yes, and do you know what it is? I kind of got him based on the opening fixtures, and then hopefully he'll get a few starts, and I can get quite a high value trade. And one of the boys like Rags or Plops or Bry, one of them, Dan, they'll fall into the trap. If he starts a couple of games, scores a goal, gets a couple of assists, I think his value will be, his stock will be higher than it should be, and I might be able to get someone half decent in return.
This is a little bit off topic, but what's your opinion on post-draft, pre-season trades?
I feel like it's a bit desperate. I feel like it's people who are not comfortable with the draft, or they're not comfortable with the balance. So some people maybe have drafted too many forwards, too many mids, and they're wanting to balance the squad out a bit. But when people come sending me trades post-draft before the first game of the season, I think I've got them by the short and curlies. I know they're not happy with the squad. So I feel like I could come back with a counter trade if needed. But I've pretty much rejected all trades since the draft just to get me own boys in order, you know.
That's funny because you never reject trades. That's a trait of the BJs, that any trade offer that comes in sits there indefinitely.
Well, to be honest, why would I reject a trade outright? Because then what about if one of my boys picks up a cruciate ligament injury and I'm like, well, that trade's been hanging there for 3 or 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. I'll just toggle in there and press accept. You've been there on Pogba Gate of an old trade.
Pogba Gate is it?
Of an old trade.
Story for a future podcast.
Definitely. On controversial scenarios within the league. Right, okay, well, I think that's everything we need to cover. I think what we're going to do post in the next couple of days is a summary of all our managers and the teams they represent. We'll get that out over the weekend. And possibly the odds. We've got our local bookie 2-packs bookmakers who's actually give us seasoned odds for everyone and the specials. I believe he's got some specials in there if anyone wants to take a dabble in those. So we'll get those prepped and out for the weekend. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, if you could sum up your particular matchup this week in 3 words, how are you feeling about your chances?
I am apprehensive. I would say I'm not confident at all. And I'm going to need a lot of luck to win my tie, let alone field 11 players because of me draft. How about yours?
I was going to have 3 words. I'd say excited, very buoyant, and Christmas. Can't wait. I'm playing Colo, bottom of the league. He's got a load of players out. He's got KDB and someone else sat on the bench, and I'm thinking, well, I fancy this.
Yeah, that does sound good. That's not a bad. If you're starting off with your matchups against KDB and he's not playing, then that's always good news. Where will you be managing your team from this weekend?
All weekend. I've looked at the schedule. The football kicks off at 12:30 tomorrow, and there's games all the way through until match of the day is on, basically. So yeah. I'm just going to sit there, watch that with a brief intermission for the Formula 1 qualifying.
I'm jealous. As you can see, I'm stuck in a hotel room. I'm away, and I'm likely to miss the opening 3 games of the season, which is a real stinker. Hope to get back for the Newcastle match, but it's not looking good for me being able to make changes throughout the day, getting again my excuses in early.
On your behalf there.
Oh, it really is. But let's see what happens. I'm playing former champ, last year's champ, so it really odds are not stacked in my favour. But we'll see what happens.
Good. You might start week 2, bottom of the league, which means you might get first stab at whoever comes in the next week.
I'm hoping so, because apparently Jordan Sancho is back on the card. So as long as he gets the deal done before Tuesday, then that'll be canny for the waivers, since I picked up no one this week in post-draft waivers. Not a sausage. We will see. Okay, mate. Well, good luck for the opening game. I'll be in touch over the weekend.
All the best. I've got some lovely beers on order to enjoy along with the matches, so I'll send you some reviews.
Excellent. That's good to hear. Right. Adios, amigos, loco. Stay sexy.